Okay, I figured out. I figured out what the horrible sound was. It was because I'm watching this in the screen. I figured out what the horrible sound was. Oh no, no! No, you're just gonna have to go back in, aren't you? I wanted to discuss how making content by yourself. Well, you make content by yourself all the time anyway. But it helps you learn new things, I think, and it just helps you get to a level that you couldn't in collaborations. And I realize I'm just not a collaboration girly. Like I will always be just an independent YouTuber, and that's just my path. But what I want to share, like I know last Sunday when I was doing some lives, people were like, "Oh my gosh, like are you a home economics teacher or something?" No, I'm not a home economics teacher. I think I said this back in. I'm not a home economics teacher at all. I'm just somebody who has a passion for like cleaning and taking care of my house, which I feel like everybody should nowadays. And I love being a DIY girly. Like I just like to do things myself. Like I know it's really been popularized in modern times to, I don't know, hire somebody to clean your house or to do this and that for you. But first off, I would never have the budget for that anyway. And I think it's so good to just be an honest person. Like you see a lot of people, like, well, I mean, you do see people that are very just what should I say, that have always been frugal, living on a budget. But a lot of people, they're not like, well, for instance, like the trad wife content. A lot of them are pretty rich, okay. But I want to say something about the trad wife content that I just find very strange. Especially, I don't know, is it just Mormon Christians or maybe it's conservative Christians? Because there's other groups of people where I feel like they've been stereotyped. Okay, so a lot of people stereotype Muslims, but this is one thing I've noticed about Muslims. Like, in Islam, they talk about how a woman, when a wife gets married, that her husband's money is her money. And a lot of Muslim women are very independent, especially in the West. And in other countries too. They make it seem like all Muslim women are oppressed. And I'm not saying there aren't any that are not oppressed. But a lot of Muslim women actually, I would say, have more control over their finances and their life than these traditional trad wives. And I'm not talking about like the Nora Smith kind or the ballerina farm one, who I think she likes that lifestyle, right? I think she likes letting her husband not let his money be her money. But not that I'm even thinking marriage is the end all be all, but if I were looking to be like a housewife, personally I'm not, but if I were, wouldn't you rather be like in the Muslim faith than the Christian faith? Because it just seems weird. And personally, the stereotypes of Islam need to end because all this like oppression of the women. You see it in the Christian marriages, like the ballerina farm types, or the people that are saying ballerina farm's oppressed. And I don't know. I don't even really care that deeply because honestly, I'm a single person and I like being a single person. And I'm not like, I don't feel like you have to be married to have a nice house or a clean house. I think some people feel like they need to be married, but I don't know. I've been on Reddit and I've seen where people complain about their husband and wife being slobby bobbies. And can't you just be happy within yourself? I don't know. Anyway, I don't really understand all that need because it's not something that's highly sought after for me. And on the same token, I'm not saying I never want to meet somebody, but I'm at a point in my life where I definitely am gonna always have my standards. Like, I met somebody the other day and I was not impressed by this guy. He could be as cute as he wanted to be, but he showed his disrespect to me right off the bat. Okay, so Friday night, he stops and he says, "Oh, you're so beautiful. I want your number." And he said he actually wanted to go on a date. And I mean, I didn't truly believe him. But a half an hour later, he called me. He said he got home and he wanted to know if I lived alone, which I thought was a weird question. Like, why are you asking me this? And I'm like, yeah. And then he goes, "Oh, yeah, I want to go like to dinner and a movie." But then like the language started changing. He started talking about ordering in a movie and ordering in food. And I'm like, this is weird. And I said, oh, so I kind of was at the point, I think I know what type of guy he is. Like, he is a hookup guy, and I'm not interested. So I just kind of dug a little bit deeper. And I asked him, "Oh, so what restaurant you want to meet at? Or what restaurant you want to go to?" And he's like, "Well, your place." And I'm like, "My place isn't a restaurant. I'm in a restaurant." He goes, "Oh, well, he goes, I just felt like we had a big attraction to each other and I want to come over and order food and cuddle." And I'm like, this was really weird. And I said, I felt this was weird. And I was nice. I was very respectful to the guy. I just said, it sounds like you're looking for something in particular. I'm not really looking for that. Definitely not looking for that with somebody I don't know. And I told him, I don't feel comfortable inviting people I don't know to my house. No way. So I told him, if you want to meet, we can meet in a public place. And that's it. And I didn't hear back from him. And I told him, oh, if you're a medical student, you should focus on your studies. I didn't hear back from him. Because you know why? He was a hookup guy. And I just don't care. Like, maybe when you're 20 years old and you really, really think you want to meet a guy that hard, maybe that sounds exciting. But when you get older, you just don't, I don't know. Like, and I even talked to my sister about this. I'm like, I actually, if I do decide that I want to meet someone again, I want him to impress me. I want him to take me to Disneyland. Yes, I'm a Disney adult. I want him to take me out to lunch. I want him to be somebody that'll do things for me. And if you don't, like, if all you do is talk about how you want to spend your money on this thing and that, like, I'm not interested. And you don't have to like spend all your money on me. And I'm not a gold digger, but I'm definitely not interested. And he had the audacity to tell me, "Oh, well, don't worry. I just want to come over tonight because I feel such a connection with you. And but I have lots of dates planned later." And I was like, I don't know why. I trust nobody. But anyway, just goes to show, like, I think a lot of people do like to hook up. If that's your life and that's what you want out of life, you should go for it. But I just don't think it's that exciting. And I feel like maybe that's what some people, and I don't even believe it. I think he's just looking at it. It's not that naive. Like, and you know how I know? Because I didn't hear back from him after I didn't give him my address and after I didn't invite him over, which is super scary, by the way. Like, why would any woman want to invite a guy that they don't know in their house? I don't think so. I'm not interested in guys that drive beat up cars. I'm not interested in guys that have 14-year-old daughters that aren't divorced. I'm not interested in guys that won't take me to Disneyland. I'm not interested in any of these guys that think that they're all that in a bag of chips. Like, oh, I have a 15, 14-year-old daughter, and my wife has left me, and oh, like, oh, but we're separated, not divorced, because my daughter is like 14 and 15, and she might. No, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in a guy whose car is so beat up that on a winter's night he can't put a heater in it because it might blow out the engine. I'm not interested in guys like this. And that was the last experience I had when I went on a date with a guy. I don't care if you buy me dinner. If you order for me, I don't like that either. I don't know. I don't think that dating's all that. I just don't. I'm not desperate to meet someone either. I just think, I don't get it. But it's very important, I think, to people in our day and age to meet people and to have that relationship status. I guess. I just no. I just don't feel that is important. Like I'm going to meet somebody if it's meant to be, and I feel no pressure. When you stop feeling like you have to, like I know, well, especially in Boomer generation. Not all Boomers. I do find it funny that a lot of Boomers California is kind of characterized as the land of fruit and nuts, but I would say inland, you have more conservative types, more the leave it to beaver types. I think the 1950s lifestyle did not really end in the 1970s for these people. And when these people were growing up, they grew up, they had kids, and it was a thing. Like you had certain, I'm not talking about everybody, but a lot of people, like you had certain boxes you had to check get married, have kids. Your kids are supposed to get married and have kids. And I'm seeing, okay, like with the boomer generation, my parents' generation, and even people that are my age that are now having grandkids, which I feel like that's a little like, oh, look, my sister is a grandmother, okay? But she had kids really young, and her daughter had kids really young. But there are some people, I don't know, they have kids young, their kids have kids young, and I think they get kind of surprised, like when their kids don't grow up and have kids right away, or maybe they don't want to have kids, or maybe I don't know. Like I think about my nephew, he's 25, and I don't think him and his girlfriend want to have kids. I don't. Like that's the vibe I get. Like they don't want to have kids. Like they just want to have their own fun little life, and they're happy. And I think like, and for me too, like I don't know, I didn't feel like getting married was some priority, but I've noticed like with the boomer generation and even people my age, like they start having like this anxiety attack if their kids are not getting married. And I think like, isn't it better just to live a good, happy life than to define yourself by like getting married and having kids, especially in North America where having kids are just an accessory, where everybody thinks that the kids need to be off on their own at 18, and where people are not really practicing gentle parenting. Because I think about my mom, I know gentle parenting is a new thing. Like you can still do gentle parenting with boundaries. By the way, I'm not talking about letting your kids run amok. To me, that's not gentle parenting. That's just a lack of parental boundaries. But I don't know, because my mom, she engaged in gentle parenting, but we knew she was the parent, and she had boundaries with us. Like you weren't supposed to touch everything in the store, and you weren't supposed to run around and jump on the stairs and do different things. Like you just weren't supposed to do those things. Like because there was communication gently, where my mom said those that things in a store belong to somebody else until you buy them, and even if you do pay for them, you want to treat the things with respect. You don't want to be like, I don't know, like I've kind of had, like I used to say things even when I was shopping to kids that were like destroying the merchandise. Like it kind of used to trigger me. But I got to the point like you don't want to say anything to people's kids really because they don't care or they're just not paying attention. Like there's this boy that was just beating up merchandise at a Dollar Tree once, and it was very triggering just to see him punching the merchandise like that. But his mom didn't care. His mom wasn't like worried about it, and I was like, well, why would I want to waste my precious energy being worried about that? So for me, people like that who they don't really seem to engage with their kids and they're looking at their phone and they're like walking out the door and their kid is like running behind. They're not even like the parents that are like saying, oh, I'm going to leave without you. they're just exiting. They're exiting the door of a store, and their kid is looking frantic and running, and the parent is just staring at their phone in a catatonic state. So, like, engage, because this was a check mark that they needed to have a kid, to get married, to do this and that. And I feel like, well, there's a lot of us nowadays, we're not getting married, we're not having kids. I feel like if you're going to be in a relationship, it has to be healthy and it has to be good. It's not just to check these boxes. Because I know a lot of people that check the boxes, like, and the kid thing. And this is where I think the pronatalist people are so wrong. They're like so like antiquated, actually. And I'm going to tell you why they're antiquated, because they're talking about how women should have more children, and they're going to have all these kids, and they're like, some of them think their kids are going to be perfect and that their kids are all going to be doing this and that. Well, I'm going to tell you, you have several kids, and there's always a guarantee one is not going to live up to your expectations, whether it be like a mental illness problem or just like maybe they have other issues. Like, I don't know what the issue could be, but they're always going to be where, these are the people that are going to cut their kids off. They're not going to want to deal with that, because the people that have their child as an accessory or to check a box, are they going to take their 50-year-old child to help them later in life? No, they're not going to do that. They're just not. Some people might, but especially not in this North America. Oh my gosh, you have to be out the door at 18, and I'm living vicariously through my kids, and they better get married and have kids. And oh, if they're not like married, or if they're like, personally, I am a straight person, but like these people that really hate on people that aren't straight. Like, if you don't like something, then don't live that way. But some people are a different way than you, and you have to accept that. And some people don't like that. And if their child isn't living a certain kind of life, they're panicking. Why is my son not having a marriage and having a baby? Like, these people are going to have panic. Like, they're going to have a panic attack about it. Because you know why? You can't force everybody to get married. And if you do, like in a society back where everybody used to have to pretend to follow the rules and get married, and even nowadays, like in Christian and Islamic society, like look at Saudi and look at conservative Christian America. A lot of men are gay. They're gay, and they have, what is it called? A lavender marriage. Do you know what that is? It's where they pretend to be married to a woman, but they're really with other men. Okay. So you could have a society that pushes for everybody to get married, but then people are going to do what they want to do. And if you don't like it, then don't do those things. But I just feel, I don't know, I've just thought more and more about this, like the people who think like their kids need to live a certain way. And I feel like there's this expectation in life that if you don't get married and you don't live this life, that somehow your life is invalidated. And I just don't feel that that's true, because I feel that being happy is the ultimate goal. I feel that if you are going to be in a relationship, you want it to be the most like phenomenal, beautiful, healthy, sustainable, and encouraging relationship of your life. You want the best. You're not just checking the boxes. And I think, and then a lot of people, they subject others, like they subject society to, like, you'll see people in their 70s where they're bickering with their husbands, and wives are bickering. And I think, oh, it's a joke, and I want to laugh, and I'm like, you guys are a cute couple. But I don't know. Are they honest? Because I feel like they're pretty honest and they just hate each other, but they've stayed together all these years because it's become like it's public performative where they're having this fight, and it kind of starts making you feel uncomfortable. And you're like, oh, okay, have a nice day. And they're publicly just having this fight with each other, and it's kind of weird. It's just so weird. But I don't know. Maybe some people like this. Some people just have like mundane, healthy marriages. Some people are, but I don't think it's necessary. I don't think you need to check all those boxes. Checking the box doesn't make your life better. It just doesn't. And I don't think that's a form of progress. Our society has lied to you. If you believe that that's status, that getting married, having a kid, having 3 pups is a status symbol, because it's not. It's just performative. Oh, wow, you checked the box. And were you happy when you checked the box? Was it healthy when you checked the box? If it's not, then I don't get the point. I don't know. But, once again, you can clean your house. You don't need to be married to clean your house. You don't need to be married to cook. You don't need to be married. Like, really. Just, I like to have a clean house. Actually, your house will be cleaner if you're single and you don't have kids. You know why? Because if you have kids, you're going to be cleaning it 24/7 unless you have a maid or a housekeeper or something. But those are just all my thoughts on performative life. I just think a healthy life is better. Like a life where you will have good interactions with everybody. Yeah. So it's okay to be picky. I think it's okay to hold out for good experiences. It's okay. Like I know some people call like, oh my gosh, no, you're not married. Why? Like, why is that so important? Like, oh no, you didn't have kids. Like, was that something I was supposed to want? The younger people, like Generation Z, they don't believe in that anymore, okay? Which is so funny because supposedly, like, the hippies claimed that that's what they were going for, like just love and living in the moment. And I think this is why, like, I like to do generational thought dynamics. And I do believe, like, some boomers really did imbibe, like, the whole hippie spirit, which kind of was, I don't know, culturally appropriated from India anyway. Like, not the Indian people practice this per se, but the whole, like, yoga thing and meditation thing. Like, people went to India and they started observing these things and then bringing it back to the West. But the whole vibe, the whole thought process. But I think a lot of people, like a lot of boomers, hate Generation Z because they're really just living, like, their whole core being is like, even the ones that are in relationships, like, they're not trying to tick all the boxes. Like, I don't know, like a lot of young people today, like, yes, there are young people that still have kids, but it's not like a priority to them. Like, their priority is to be happy, and it's a new era. It's just a new era. So anytime I hear like a parent or a grandparent say, "Oh, I hope that my child goes on to get married and have a kid," why is that so important? Wouldn't you rather that they, I don't know, complete their education, get a job that they like, do something that they really, really love with themselves? Like, why is it that the priority or the highlight is to get married, have a child, and 3 pups? I don't know. I digress. I just don't get it. Like, I just don't think these things are that important. But then, once again, I've never really bought into the popular zeitgeist of what's like vibing and what's hip and cool. And I don't know. I just didn't care enough. And I value healthiness and happiness over everything. I do. And I do. You want to be happy and you want to be healthy, and those are the most important things. Because if you don't have that, you have nothing and you've accomplished nil. Being happy and healthy is everything. And I'm just thinking about that more and more. And maybe that's why I look younger for my age. Like, sometimes I get sad about things, but in general, I've made it my credo to smile and be happy and to look for the gratitude and positivity. And the other day, I don't have to say my exact age because I just don't online. Like, it's nobody's business, okay? But people are really shocked when I tell them what my age is. And I've done it in public before, and some people nearly had a panic attack. They had a panic attack. And I don't know why. I'm like, I can show you my ID. They had a panic attack. But I know other people like me. Like, there's a lot of other people that look younger than their age. But even the married ones, okay? Like, ones that are married. I think they're people that just live according to happiness and healthiness. They're not trying to tick all the boxes. I think ticking all the boxes is downright stressful if that's what you do. Like, I personally wouldn't want to tick all those boxes, but I don't know what to tell people. Like, I could not I had to take a nap earlier. Like, I never take a nap, but today I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it because I've just been really busy this week and I was a little delayed on my cleaning. I'm getting it done. I'm getting it done. I was going to do it all morning long, but just like if you have kids, you'd have to keep going. And I don't regret that. Like, I'm going to tell you right now, if you, like, I'm not saying that I don't love children. I think my grandnephew, he's so cute. I love him so much. I don't hate children, okay? And my niece and nephew were cute when they were little. I don't hate children. I think they're very sweet. But I don't regret not having kids. Like, what am I missing out on life? There's nothing that I feel like I've missed out on in life. And especially when I see how people treat the child like an accessory, and especially like when the child, like the pronatalist people, that child's not perfect. They're not going to help it. They would rather that child be a burden on society, even though these are the kind of people that are all like pro, like self-sustaining stuff. But they'd be okay with that child being a burden on society rather than taking that child in. I've seen it so many times. It's so true. You want to know about a lot of the people that are homeless in this country that are wandering the streets is because you have a very selfish culture. A culture where people believed in not taking care of their parents and not taking care of the kids, being multi-generational household. And that's why we have a homeless crisis in this country. That's one of the reasons. It's because we don't believe in multi-generational families. And that's my opinion. That is my opinion. And I find it so ironic because like all these people think that having kids and getting married is the thing, but they don't want to do things like they used to be done where like grandma would live with them. Like they would feel like that's cramping their style. They'd rather send grandma to a facility. But grandma always used to live with like the kids in the old days. Like, why can grandma not live with you now? Like, why is it in this generation and especially the boomers? I think this stuff started with the boomers. And I'm not usually so anti-boomer. Like, my parents are boomers, but they're not like other boomers. Like, they're not like, well, I don't know. My dad, he's a little selfish. But my mom's not like that. And I don't know. But yeah, I always think about this. I always think like about, like, why is it that the boomers are so mad at Generation X? And I think a lot of it has to do with, well, Generation X is actually living the life that the boomers said they were going to live in the 60s. And I think they feel salty about that because they sold out. They sold out to like checking the boxes. Well, some of them are always going to check the boxes. Like in the more conservative communities, you might have some outliers. You might have some people that were lifelong bachelors, or old maid, as our society loves to call people. But in general, people checked all the boxes, but they never would have a multi-generational household. So I feel like we need to re-examine. I do feel like some individuality is good, but individuality at the price of the community, that's not good. That's just not good. It's really bad, actually, in my opinion. But, to each his own. To each his own. Coyotes. Now we're going to talk about coyotes. I have a coyote story for you. I grew up with a coyote. That I used to pet and put a hat on. Well, it wasn't a full-blooded coyote. It was a doggo. I grew up with a doggo. My parents didn't know what this was when their puppy was given to them. They didn't know that it was a mix between a Siberian Husky and a coyote. And this was like a backyard operation, apparently. So anyway, I guess, personally as an adult, I did not want to own a dog because when I was a kid, I owned a dog because my parents had dogs and I was the only one that was walking them and doing these things for them. It was a lot of work. Also, I kind of had like just PTSD because our neighbors would make the dog bark and then they'd complain about it. And I just don't like a creature that barks, so I prefer cats. Just like I have Tiny and my dog Buster, who I loved him very much, and I loved Lady Dog. I loved them. They were great dogs. But as an adult, I'll never own a dog. That was one decision I made. Maybe someday if I do get a bigger place, I'll own a cat again. But I just will never own a dog. And actually, in general, just not having a pet right now has just made my life just so much easier. Because I feel like if you own a pet, there's a lot of responsibility that goes with it, in my opinion. And I think some people just don't really treat their animals at the level that they should. Like, they're using their animal for emotional support, but you don't think your dog might feel stressed out going to Lowe's? Like, because I don't think dogs want to go everywhere that humans go. Some of them might, but some of them you can tell look stressed, and they don't want to wear a human outfit, and they want to do dog things. Sometimes dogs want to be dogs. But I digress. So my parents had a dog goat. So there's a coy dog. A coy dog is where the father is a coyote and the mother is a dog, which I find interesting. Like, I don't understand, like, why. I'll have to look more into this, but I don't know why all the breeders are, like, they want to promote the coy dog over the dog goat. Although, is that completely accurate? Because I was watching some video today about coy dogs, and it looked like some of the half-caste dog coyote dogs, the mother was the half-caste, not a full coyote. So anyway, I had a dog whose mother was a coyote when I was a kid, and the father was a German Shepherd. So this dog Panda looks exactly like a coyote. She yips like a coyote. So I feel like intrinsically, I have certain, I know certain things, instinctually about a coyote that other people might not. And I'm not saying you should get close to them. In fact, if I do see a coyote near me, I will beckon it to go away, because on Friday morning, this could be due to the fire. Some people think it's because of the fire, but I also think the coyotes we've encroached upon their property, and they're breeding more, and there's less predators of the coyotes, so their population is going up, and they're looking for food. So Friday morning, I saw this coyote, and he was hunting for some sort of small prey, and I was like, I really don't want to stand near him. Okay, maybe he wanted to attack me, but I still want to assert dominance with the coyote. I don't want it coming near me, and you shouldn't want a coyote to come near you, because I've heard stories about how people were attacked by them. Like, I'm just not going to take that risk. Okay, I'm not going to take that risk. So I beckoned this coyote to walk across the street. And at first I felt a little scared, but I thought, you know what? I can't be scared. I need to just assert dominance. But I kept filming him. But yeah, the coyotes nowadays, they're not as scared of people anymore. They're pretty, they're here. But it was kind of weird. So this coyote was watching me, and I kept telling him to go away, and I kept pointing, but he was kind of watching me the whole time. So he went away. But he wasn't truly afraid of me. I started playing something on my phone to make him walk across the street into a field. And he kept walking around in that field. And I think he was just waiting for me to go so that he could cross back across the street, either dig something out of the trash at the bus stop or look for some sort of wildlife prey. This is why you shouldn't let your animals just wander around by themselves, like little dogs, little cats outside, because coyotes will get them. And I think even as a human, you need to, if you do come across where you see a coyote, you need to beckon them to go away. Don't try and get close to them. We want to try to keep them a little bit, somewhat scared of people, because I don't think it's good for them to get too used to being around people, even though they are obviously growing up in a suburban area. It was a young coyote, okay? It's gone through puberty. So it was a maturing coyote, I could tell, but I could tell it was younger. But the coyotes in Southern California are smaller. And that's one thing I remember about my dog goat Panda. She was a smaller dog. Okay, but she couldn't be around other dogs. Okay, people's dogs couldn't come visit our house. And she didn't really like a lot of people except for our people. So I know some people are like, oh, like these new dog oats and koi dogs are being socialized to be around people. And I'm like, I'm just not so sure about that. I just think you need to be careful in any kind of dog, really. And I think this is another reason I personally just don't ever want to own a dog personally, because I know even if it seems like the sweetest dog, dogs are still dogs. And I feel like there's always this potential they could bite someone. And I personally just don't. I don't want to deal with that. Like some people, they're happy. They're happy to have a dog, and having dogs are great. But a dog goat? Wow, no. My parents had one because they didn't know what the neighbor had given them until later. They were like, what kind of dog is this? And they were surprised, and these people were breeding that in their backyard. But hey, that was the mountains in 1977. This dog was born like a couple of years before me. You guys were just different back then. Like people just kind of did what they wanted to do. I was also laughing today because I was looking things up on TikTok about like people are like, oh, if you live in LA, this place is so chill. It's called the Hot Springs and it's a clothing optional place. And I was like, oh my God, guys, maybe it's a little tame, but some people were like bad activities going on down there. And I'm like, yes, bad activity has always gone on down at the Hot Springs. And this was why my mom never wanted us to go there as kids, because I mean, she went there a few times when she first moved out here to the mountains. And back then it was wild. It was wild. Like my mom was from Kansas. She goes, I must have been so naive. Because first off, they were nudists, but they weren't the regular kind of nudists. Like they were doing some interesting stuff out there. And my mom was very sheltered. She thought that this one man, this older man, and this guy were like a father and a son. I'm like, oh no, I know where this story is going. And she goes, she saw that they were not, and people would just openly do stuff there, and they were doing like illicit stuff. And I'm not going to say what, because like YouTube doesn't like that. But the Hot Springs, like it has a reputation. Like maybe it's more mundane nowadays. Maybe it's more low key, but I don't know. I heard some people say there's still activity there and that other people go there to film stuff. And I'm like kind of boy stuff. And I'm like, oh, so weird. But yeah, it has a bad reputation, this place, the Hot Springs, and between Lake Erie and Hesperia. It has a bad reputation, like for a reason, which is really sad because it was the natural hot springs that belonged to the Serrano people, and they used to spend their winters there. And it had like a spiritual, like, I kind of find this to be the tantamount example of like how people colonize a region, and then like of course like the descendants of colonizers, I don't think they're colonizers, okay? At this point, none of us are the original people that used to live here. We're just not, unless you're like 100% that thing. But I do feel like it's disrespectful to go there and do those kind of things. And I know somebody kind of was chastising me the other day, like, oh, well, if you don't do certain kinds of activities, how can you know that you don't like them and how sheltered that is? And no, it's not. Because I feel like somebody like that would be like, yeah, it's cool to go there and party and do all this and that. And to me, it just feels like you kind of defiled a beautiful natural place. And that's what I always thought. And I've never wanted to go to this place because as a kid, my mom was like, I don't want you guys going there. I do not want you to go there because of the activity. Like we all knew about it, okay? We all knew about this place. And I don't know, my dad would go out hiking there sometimes, but my mom, she never want to go there. And like, yeah, there's a reason. So it could be more tame nowadays. What do I know? But I don't really want to find out either. Like I wouldn't want to go there and find out like what's going on, or and Fizz is more chill nowadays. That's good, right? But it still feels like because of, I don't know, just the way people live there and things they do, because it was a Native American like holy place at one time. It just feels like disrespect. I don't know. And that was a feeling that I had as a child. And it's funny how a lot of like, I just used to know certain things in my heart. Like a certain thought would pop into my heart. And I'd be like, this is disrespect to the indigenous people who used to live there. Because we read like a little inscription about how this used to be like a holy site for the Native American people, like the hot water, like because water has healing properties. And now people come there and they think it's a party place. And I think sometimes we should just have enough respect for some places in nature that we don't go there and that we leave them alone and let nature take them back, or just maybe let some indigenous people who have a connection to that place reclaim it or something. Maybe I'm weird to think that, but that's just kind of what I think about that spot. And I don't regret not going there. And because of what I've read and heard. And yeah, like apparently there's still all sorts of activity not allowed there, but what do I know? It's being promoted as a go-to spot from people in LA. And I'm like, just because you live in LA and you're looking for something to do to get away from the city for the day, maybe you should have more awareness of what you're doing. I don't know. That was really interesting. Also too, there's rattlesnakes out there. You can be bitten by a rattlesnake, or sometimes bears go out there, and people just don't have awareness because like people are like, oh, but there's no cell phone signal out there. Like even back in like 1999 there wasn't. Because I remember one time my dad went hiking out there and he's like, oh my gosh, my friend's cell phone actually got a signal. But most of the time they don't. And people are like, because you could be like injured, but that could happen anytime you go into nature. So I do like nature, but after that time I was running and the bear ran in front of me. I'm not going to go in the wilderness to be around wild animals. Like I try to play it safe, and try to have some respect for nature. And that means you don't litter, you don't leave your garbage behind. I still do have issues about like when I was a kid, I don't know, like there was that place that was kind of like the play place. But I don't know. I never told anybody like, and I'm glad still nobody really wants to go to the Indian Rock Camp because I still feel like that place is sacred too. And I'm kind of glad that people don't go there. I don't know. But there's just rocks there. So why would they go there? But those are just some of my thoughts. Anyway, I need to close up the dishwasher. And I might do more cleaning videos later. Thanks for watching.